post-apocalyptic. Everybody's going to scrounge for what they have, that sort of thing.
All right. Well, before we get into this entire thing, welcome, Session 0, Tuesday lunch break, nothing too serious. I don't even know what's happening yet. We have a whole bunch of people who we will be introduced to over the period of time. I'm not even worried about names at this point. I say we get going.
It's good. Because my name doesn't really matter. You know. It really doesn't. Call me whatever. Fine by me. As long as I know you meant me, we're good. That's what names are for, right?
Exactly. You're any good to point, though. There are you.
Yeah, well, you can't do that, though, because when the screens move around, you might end up pointing the wrong person. I respond to, hey, you there? Oh, yeah. Big guy, tall one.
I respond to those as well.
Oh, yeah.
I think Swords and Sorcery kind of mixed with the idea of the world has ended. Would be a would be a cool one.
So like the Earth Dawn kind of idea where they did that?
I'm not familiar.
Oh, it's a Sword and Sorcery after the apocalypse. Everyone hid underground for a long time, and then they started to come back up.
Okay, is it a setting, a book, a TV show?
It's an actual set. There's an actual role-playing system.
I am vaguely familiar with that. Yeah. Now that I'm looking at the cover, I actually do recognize that. A little tiny bell in the back of my brain somewhere.
It wasn't super popular when it was first released. It was quite grim-dark, honestly. So it really wasn't my cup of tea kind of thing.
I see. I really love Dragon Mech, and no one ever plays that. Dragon Mech takes the most fantasy worlds, humans, the dominant life form. In Dragon Mech, it's dwarves.
Oh.
And dwarves build what are basically city-sized, if they were on their edge, mechs. It's like Gundam Dwarf. It's a good time. It's ridiculous and fantastic. Anyway, so Dane, Allison, preference? Oh, I should probably be calling you Gobo in the Secret Pen. My apologies.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, we'll adjust. We'll figure it out. Overlay can easily be changed between games.
Nice. You bet.
The Secret Pen is just my handle for everything, so it's the easiest way for people to find me if they so choose.
For like the first 3 months, that was your name in our house. Because I hadn't quite ever to ask questions about this table and that one. I'd be like, the Secret Pen group. She'd be like, that's one person, right? Well, yeah. Because then shouldn't they all get credit? Yeah, okay, fine, but I spoke to her first.
I love it.
So
I mean, I've played a wide variety of games, so I'm open for almost anything. I don't particularly like the grim dark settings where the everything's death and doom and gloom and there's no reason to go on.
Yeah, right. That's always a hard one for me. Grimdark in small bursts, like grimdark moments, I'm partial to, but not as like the standing bit. Because why would you keep playing? Life is kind of bummer enough. Why would you deliberately submit yourself to that during your downtime? That said, if Gabo and the Secret Pen are like, yeah, let's have dark and grim and murder, I didn't mean any offense.
Now, I'm down for anything. I think that it's more about the players than about the setting.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, I'll have to agree with that. Yeah, I mean, you can take a terrible rule setting, and if you got some good players, it doesn't make any difference.
Oh yeah, a friend of mine. I'm amazed we're friends. He's like the brother. We're more than friends. He's like the brother I always wanted, and we agree on nothing at the table, not a damn thing. And I'm big on I'll trust the players to be awesome, and they will be. And he goes, no. Shackles and chains and rules, because you can't trust nobody, never. It amazes me that we're friends. Anyway, so up for whatever. How does Sword and Sorcery End of the World sound?
Do you have a particular rule set you're looking at?
How about End of the World, but like the world's coming back up, so it's not all blown out ashlands and crap. There's like greenery, just not lush greenery.
Hell yeah.
Or like new beginnings.
Right. Has anybody here played Enslaved Odyssey to the West? It's a video game.
No.
I've heard of it, but I've not played it.
So in Odyssey to the West, it's a very loose interpretation of Journey to the West, the classic Chinese story. And I'm going to very, very loose. You play a guy named Monkey who can climb on anything. It's even looser than Dragon Ball, which is based on the same story. But basically, you play Monkey, who's a guy who can climb on anything, whose whole job is to escort somebody. That's not really important to the setting. It's the time after. They don't really cover it. It could be 1,000 years, could be 10,000 years. They're 100. They don't really cover it. So there are like mechs twice the size of men running all over the place that attempt to collect everybody. And there are giant airships and like new technology, some of which is very impressive. Basically, none of which the people know how it works. They just know if it's working. Like if you pull the trigger and the bullets come out, the gun works, right? But they don't really know how to fix it if it breaks. So everybody's scavenging this and that. Everybody, like, trade is in fuel because food is easy to come by. Heat is not.
Okay.
So almost everybody trades in fuel or light sources because when the sun goes down, the mechs don't need the light to see. So nighttime is terrifying. And just like at one point you'll walk through what is clearly Grand Central Station. Not to them, but to the player, it's clearly Grand Central Station, and it is broken. But it's mostly broken because vines own it now. Well, like nature has taken back the vast majority of the terrain you'll like walk and run and play through.
All right.
And they don't really cover what happened.
I like that idea that we don't know what happened, but we're here.
My bet we blew each other to hell, but they don't really cover it. Dane, what do you think?
I think that's a good idea to start off at least.
Okay, sure.
The sword and sorcery end of the world type system.
Okay, sounds good. So, do you have a preference on mechanical crunch one way or the other? We should probably just go around the group and get everybody's system on that. Let's start with Dane.
I only know D&D. I can learn any other system, but that's the only one I can really say I know any mechanics about.
Okay, good for you. That covers like 200 other ones at least.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with just over 450, and the vast majority of them are, D20 systems. They might change strength to power or something, but it's the same idea.
Okay.
So being familiar with a D20 system in the modern day covers like
most
80% of the games.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I just played a SG1 that's 5e based.
Oh yeah, the new one. How is that?
It's got some interesting mechanics into it.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Should I look into that? You think? I'm an SG1 fan, and I have mixed feelings about 5th edition.
Well, they added what they call a tension die, so that you set the tension of the episode that you're playing, so it acts kind of like the show. So if it's this sort of more comical one, the tension die is lower, and no one really dies. But if you set the tension die high on the scenario, there's chances of death and stuff.
Does that mean like the DCs are higher, or that there's a timer?
No, you get to use that tension die to add to rolls and stuff.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So if you get to add 5 dice to your attack damage or something,
Everybody, or just
anybody who wants to use it for whatever reason. I only played 2 intro games of it, and one wasn't worth talking about. It's rough.
Okay, sure.
As for systems, I'm good with. If I haven't played it, I'll adjust. I have played everything from D20 to D6s. I have modified the old Street Fighter tabletop RPG.
I know that one.
I'm familiar with it.
It's a clunky mess that you can kill people in one hit, super low level.
So, go ahead.
One of my default that I think is easy is Savage World, because it's so versatile. But I mean, if 5e can be, or D&D can be adapted quite a number of ways. So,
hey, Secret Pen, what do you think?
The only system I'm familiar with is 5e, but I mean, I can probably adapt to anything, honestly. Like, I've played one-shots in other systems, but like mostly just
Speaking of, do you remember that Disney one-shot we did?
Yes.
Okay. Did you enjoy that from a mechanical point of view?
Yeah, I think it was a little mechanic light, but I mean, it was still fun. Like,
oh yeah, it was definitely mechanic. Like,
yeah.
But I didn't know if you would be okay with playing like that on the regular. You make a character. That means so if you make a character, and I don't mean like mechanically. I mean they do this much damage and they have this much crap. I mean just come up with a character organically, right? And then that means you'll know what they're good at and what they're bad at and shit like that. And we'll roll dice like that when it comes up. A friend of mine calls that high trust, which I think is kind of a silly name. But it's the other end of something like Hackmaster, which is a 600-page rule book, which is absurd.
I'm down for that idea, and if anything, if we notice we need to sprinkle in more concrete rules as mechanics as we go, we can.
We can. If that seems too mechanically light, I'd split the difference with something like Modifius's 2D20 system, or Alan and I have played an index card RPG, which is very 5th edition adjacent, but not as clunky. So I actually got that rule set we did for that off this bookmark, which comes out of the Labyrinth game, which is really great and gorgeous. If you don't own this, you should, just to look at it. It's pretty as hell.
I need to so much.
They do this thing where they punch holes. See that? See that hole in the pages? That's because 2 dice sit in that.
Oh.
Which is cool and all, because you don't need to remember to bring dice. So part of me loves that, but part of me hates it because part of me can see is
holes in pages?
Deliberately paid for a book that you punched holes in. What the hell's wrong with you?
And it's a snag point.
And
right, like
it fits because it's Labyrinth, which is so.
Yeah, it's still somehow it's kind of on brand. Yeah. So mechanically speaking, here's the entire system. You ready? Assuming you have a character, right? You'll know what they're good and bad at. That's kind of all you need to know right out of the gate from a mechanical point of view. You've got a difficulty slider from 1 to 6.
Okay.
That ranges, really it's 2 to 6, because if it's a 1, you're not going to roll. You have piece of cake, not a piece of cake, not that hard, fairly tricky, and in traditional Labyrinth fashion, it's not fair, which is a 6. If it's something you're good at, roll 2 dice, take the good one. If it's something you're bad at, take 2 dice and take the crummy one. That's all there is to it. That's the entire system.
I'm down for it.
You don't have mechanical hit points or anything like that, unless you say you do. I'm playing a system right now, Wild Sea, that has no mechanical support for hit points, which is not everybody's jam, because that means nobody can die until they say they can die. It's a distinctly narrative system, and that's not everybody's jam.
I played a sort of a pseudo-anime kind of one like that, where you had boxes for like hit points, but you couldn't die until you said you check off that box, I can die.
I see. Wild Sea is kind of like that. You have tracks. I have a prehensile tail that has 3 tracks. I have a gun that has 3 tracks, stuff like that. And as you take damage, you check those boxes on those tracks. And the idea is it's up to you to narratively interpret what that means. If all 3, once you've lost the whole track, that's pretty self-explanatory. Your tail doesn't work if it's completely, burned off. One of the characters is like a gecko, so they can grow it back. And it doesn't hurt to like lose it from a pain point of view, not from a utility loss point of view. So on occasion, they'll deliberately damage it on purpose to hurt somebody.
I like that idea.
Like, whatever, I can just grow it back. So yeah, I'm game. I realize that's not everybody's thing. Are we cool with at least trying that?
I'm cool with trying that.
Okay.
And I think maybe the only adjust down the road, if it seems suitable, could be a possible, like, instead of you determining if this is a way you could die, it could be like a group thing where it's like, well, that's bad for you.
Mm-hmm. There are definitely times where, like, unless you don't want me to do that, I would definitely stress that, like, hey, so this dungeon is particularly volatile, and I would probably do that in world, and if it was pretty clear to me that you didn't pick up on that, I would just pause for a second and tell you. Like,
yeah.
I think this is a high-stakes pit. Watch your butt.
With that caveat in there, I think that's great.
Sounds great. So, In this sword and sorcery world, do we want to start with world building or character building first? Do you think making a world will help you build the characters, or the other way around?
I know I already have characters, so I leave it up to the rest of the group.
Okay,
I think world building, for me, I generally build my characters off of an idea of what the world looks like.
Sounds good. You bet.
Yeah, I kind of agree with the knowing where you'd fit in the world is easier if you know the world.
Yeah, right. Okay, sure.
Hell yeah.
First question, does the world have religion in it? And, well, specifically, does it have actual gods in it? Well, up to you, as a group or individually. Feel free to just jump in. We're not in combat, so we're not taking turns.
Maybe it did.
It did? Okay. Does that mean they're all gone, or just some of them, or most of them?
Or there are some of them in hiding.
Yeah, right. Is there, from a cleric point of view, let's assume for a second it was 5th edition.
Mm-hmm.
In theory, clerics need divine power from somewhere in order to use their abilities. In theory, that power's not theirs, right? They're borrowing it from a higher power. So if there are no gods on the table, if there are gods in hiding, if in this world, can clerics go like that and use divine power to do their stuff?
Well, it's if they have the thing is, and even in D&D, the spells up to a certain level are actually granted by avatars of the gods, or their angels and stuff.
Right.
They talk about. So
But
not the god necessarily directly. There still could be avatars of the gods around, and not the gods.
You could have
themselves.
like the scion of balance, and balance is dead, and the science just doesn't want to tell anyone.
Tell anyone.
Or maybe he doesn't know. Yeah. So, Gava, what do you think?
My thoughts were some like with gods and whatnot, they only exist if enough people believe in them. So what if in this world not enough people believe with them, considering all that's happened in the world, and to come back if enough people believe in them again?
Okay.
Or new ones are formed if a new god is believed in.
I was just about to ask. That's my favorite. So I grew up on 3rd edition, which has divinity ranks in it. And the idea is that the more people worship you, the more divine you become. And similarly, the less people worship you, the less powerful you become. And eventually, you just stop being divine altogether.
I dig it.
What's weird about that is gods don't die when that happens. They just become, like, normal people.
Yeah, which is
got to be a huge kick in the pants.
Yeah,
like,
that's an even harsher punishment than death.
Right, that's gotta suck.
And they still live forever, so they're like the town drunk, you know.
Yeah, right. Because they have no life skills. They never needed to come up with any.
Yeah.
So now they're like 3,000 years old and they've never held a job. Right. Like that's
it could
terrible.
also be like an interesting plot point if like there's a god or a couple of gods that are normal people now trying to regain that following.
Ooh.
But because then there could also be people trying to claim that they were.
Yeah.
And the first guy who says, prove it. Right, like,
and that's how you get cults.
Yeah, right. You want cults because that's how you get cults. My first thought was Jim Jones, right? Like, ugh, what a terrible thought.
See, when they thought you said about the gods dying, all I could think of is large godlike bodies littering a battlefield somewhere,
like the Celestials from Marvel Comics.
Yeah, like the Celestials. Yeah,
that's what Nowhere is, right? That's a Celestial's head. That's the right galactic body. All right, sure. The Guardians are kind of on the peripheral. I was always a street level hero guy first, so Spider-Man, Daredevil, Moon Knight, and I have a soft spot for the Silver Surfer. But once you get more cosmic than that, you kind of lose me. Okay, so at least for now, we're talking that the gods as a whole are either minimally present or mostly powerless. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. Justin, if I wanted to buy standard equipment, basic, ordinary, sword, leather, right, nothing fancy, can I do that? And if I can, where do I do it? Are there franchises? Is this like something there's a town blacksmith? Is there Adventures R Us? How post-apocalyptic are we talking? Can I go just buy shit?
I like the idea that like you have to find a way to scrounge it, but I think that might be a little bit too much.
Okay, we could split the difference and say the average person's... I mean, if there's people out there scrounging, there's people out there hoarding. And if there's people out there hoarding, there's people out there selling, right? Like, I'll trade you this thing so you don't have to spend... Instead of spending your time for it, like going to find one like it, you'll give me your money, right? It's a trade.
So the economy is more of a trade-based economy as opposed to a...
It's a thought. It's totally up to you, though. I'm going to work with whatever you come up with. There's
really that's just the first idea being thrown out.
There's really no wrong answer here.
Well, I mean, as a system recovers and infrastructure recovers, there are going to be craftsmen who are specialized in making stuff.
Right. I'm reminded of your Cotterpin character that didn't really get off the ground. Sorry about that. We had a campaign that sort of life happened and it sort of just crumpled after like our third session.
That happens.
Yeah, but I hate it when it does. Like,
because you see the potential there, and then
yeah.
Because like I can fully say my character's not going to worry too much about equipment, so this is more a front for you guys.
Because you grow it out of your nose?
No. I plan on being the pet of of a god who lost divinity. So now I actually am starting to age.
Ooh, bummer.
But I plan on being just like an adolescent tiger.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Walks on two legs and talks like
Nope.
tiger person, or like four-legged beast.
Four-legged beast who still has some mystical qualities because I was the pet of a god.
I see. Can you
like collie size then? We're talking about, or Yorkie size?
I'm thinking like golden retriever size.
Okay. That should be fun. Can you speak?
Yes.
Okay, you don't have to. I actually, with Alan, we had another player who asked if he could play a mute character, and my first reaction, my knee-jerk reaction was no, and then I was like, you know what? We're gonna why not? He was great. Like, it was
really I can absolutely speak.
So you can definitely, if you want to play a character, if you consider that your character is, I don't know, weird or something, do it anyway.
Yep.
Like I'm probably not going to shoot you down on that. If you're like a child, murdering super Nazi, maybe not, right? But barring something like that.
But if you're a zombie one, then it would be.
Yeah. Barring something just purely hateful, whatever.
100%.
So where are we? Pen and Gabo, do we like the idea that scrounging is the base economic option for many
people? It makes the most sense for a post-apocalyptic setting. Like you would, like if you went into an area, you would look for someone who was like, selling things, but obviously like you're not always going to be in a place where people are doing that.
Okay. I suppose that means we have to ask the question, what is the tech level today? Are we talking campfires and,
sticks?
Or are we talking sci-fi blasters and LED lights? Like, somewhere in the middle? Are we talking, like, we got knocked back to the Dark Ages, so it's post-apocalyptic Lord of the Rings? Where did we end up?
I would say probably low levels of technology, because... at least in my mind, probably whatever happened probably took out a lot of the technology.
Okay.
So we're looking at like...
I feel like if there was like a lot of technology available, then like there would be more of a civilization built back up.
Okay.
Or those high-tech items are kind of the hidden away treasures in someone's back room that they're giving them an edge over the other people.
Have you played Horizon Zero Dawn?
I was actually thinking about that comparison, and I was trying to not make it just be Horizon Zero Dawn medieval.
So Horizon Zero Dawn, for those of you who haven't played it, you end up with... So you play, like, I wear little pieces of rope and plastic, and I'm going to generously call it armor, and I wield a bow against, like, giant robot dinosaurs the size of buildings. But yeah, it's hard as shit and super fun.
And they made
hard as shit in places.
And a new one's coming out.
Yeah, I'm super excited. So while there's there's these the world got ruined, and you're definitely looking at like Earth. There's a bunch of wrought iron, the bones of a building. The rest of it got blown to shit. But you can see that like there's a gnarled, basically corpse of what a building had been before. But the people trade in, I think, metal bits, like little scraps. Coins, basically. They're just bits of metal ripped off of something else. But it's the same idea. More metal bits is better. And by and large, the people use sci-fi versions of spears and like harpoon guns and shit like that. But by and large, their technological level looks very fancy, but really isn't.
Just kind of crossbow level.
Yeah, right. And I'm not suggesting we play Horizon Zero Dawn. It's just,
but some of the robot creatures are actually armed with energy weapons.
Oh yeah. You have a bow and a spear. They will shoot lasers at you. Oh yeah. Like, for sure.
Do we want to scale, like, have that be a possibility, but scale that part back to like steampunk?
I hadn't really planned on adding in robot dinosaurs.
Oh not even the robot dinosaurs. So like, if you do stumble across like a very valuable piece of old technology,
oh yeah,
then that feels steampunky.
That was why I got there in the first place, because in Horizon, some of the best loot you can get is in the old places, which are big holes in the ground that are usually like old medical facilities from the past. The very first, when you first play the game, the character you play falls in an old place that is clearly some sort of medical lab. Lots of like old benches, lots of old desks and work lamps, and lots of big. One of those things is, what the hell is it? An MRI machine. You lay in it, they scan you. You have to hold real still. There's a whole bunch of those. Like, it's clearly a medical lab that's covered in centuries of dirt, and she just doesn't know what it is. And anyway. So we want to go with the world had relatively low tech level. What does that mean? Did we have computers? Did we have guns?
I mean, before the crash, or?
Yeah, before the crash, right. Because you can't find tech that wasn't there. So I kind of need to know what the tech level was before.
I don't think we go all the way up to guns or computers. Like, I think it just gets to, like, more like repeating stuff, like things that augment the traditional sort of weaponry and such, and traditional functions.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would agree with that. I tend to lean towards low tech anyway. I think it's kind of more fun.
So everything's basically muscle power, but it can be mechanically assisted.
Yes. Yeah.
So, like a best example of that is like a crossbow.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah. It's a bow with help. You're right.
Mechanical help.
Sounds good. So if I made friends with this weird monster out in the wilderness, Gabo, where would I get it kitted? Can I get it kitted?
Can you get it what?
Outfitted. Can I get it like armor and weapons and stuff?
For a monster?
Yeah, right. If I made friends with a goblin or a house cat.
I'm sure if you find a blacksmith or someone able to do it, yes, but I'd assume that they're rarer than normal.
Okay. And what kind of creatures live in this world? Are we talking the same creatures we have today, just the tougher ones who survived the blast? Or whatever it was?
The ones that got tougher?
Yeah, right. Or do we have, like, mutants? Is this like a Fallout situation where there might be weird shit? Okay, sure. Mutants it is.
Yeah.
I like the word mutant. It's nice and vague. Like, sounds good.
And the carnivore deer.
Yeah, right. Or a worm with legs, which is just inherently creepy. And I'm not really sure why.
That's a centipede.
Yeah, right. No, I mean like an earthworm the size of a van with human legs.
Yeah. Oh, human legs. Oh.
So if we've established that divinity exists to some extent, have we established that magic exists, like arcane magic? Okay, sure. Anybody opposed to that?
No, I mean, yeah. I mean, I think, magic, if magic exists, there's probably some common, like, hedge magic that, the witch learns or something like that helps the society.
Right, a Pell or a hedge maids, yeah.
They're not throwing fireballs around or anything, but
So, Alan, who's the mightiest wizard in the world? The known world, right? Like
the known world.
Yeah. Right.
I would think he's a guy who lives in the top of one of the old buildings.
Okay.
Yeah, and a storm mage of some kind.
Okay.
So he puts him way up in the sky, he's trying to, researching the gods because he wants to live forever.
Okay.
Kind of thing. What would his name be?
Is he good for the people? Is he bad for the people?
He doesn't recognize the people. They're just things down there like the rest of the animals.
Oh, I see. Okay.
They serve a purpose if he needs them.
I see.
Or when they disturb him, he has to swat them down.
Right. When they knock on his door, he's like, I was going to have tea. Okay.
If you had some sort of, trade thing or something that would compel him with his research, then he would be, he's not vicious. He's just oblivious kind of thing. Maybe a little absent-minded in his age,
Sounds good. That's a good start. I'll get back to you in a minute with more details, or we can touch base after if that works.
Yeah, that's fine.
A secret pen. Who's the greatest fighter in the world? Like martial prowess. It could be ranged, bow, axe, punches, whatever. However you choose to interpret the word martial.
I would say it's someone who's almost like barbarian-esque. They're proficient in multiple different weapons. They're like a big buff person. Obviously, they came out of the world ending in a good way. It works for them. My guess is that depending on if we're setting this many decades or centuries after the apocalypse, or whether it's recent, that would change. If it's more recent, then I would say that they are probably someone who this is their family's thing. They're known for just being not, I don't want to say murderers, but they're known they cause trouble. If you were to hear this person's last name, you would be like, I am not getting involved with them.
I see.
I'm going to go
Son
the
of
other
Conan.
way.
Right. I see. So we're talking infamous then. People know this name.
Very infamous. People know this family. They know this specific person.
So bards sing songs of some of their tales.
Yes, you're gonna hear about what they're doing because people are gonna pass it around.
Okay, cool beans. I'm picturing Hercules: The Legendary Journeys, the old TV show with Kevin Sorbo. When Hercules wanders through a town, everybody's like, "Oh my God, it's Hercules!" Because they just know.
I just thought all that his heroes will get inflated, and you find out he's some 4'8" guy.
Did you see the short-lived Atlantis TV show? Hercules is in it, and that's what happens. Hercules is the same mythic stories you expect, right? Bent a river to clean a barn, right? Killed an Nemean lion. How can you be that? Talk about mythic strength. So strong you can literally bend a river. What? That doesn't even make sense.
It breaks how things actually work.
You're right.
Pecos Bill straightened one.
Yeah, right. Yeah. See, I have a soft spot for things that feel mythic, which is much harder to land on some of the time. Thor drinks, at one point, he drinks a quarter of the ocean on a bet, which to me feels incredible, but not necessarily mythic, because given enough time, anybody could drink a quarter of the ocean. You would just, die. Because that much salt is bad for you. But the drinking of water is something people can do. So the drinking of a lot of water is something people can theoretically do. But wrapping your arms around a river and shift it, what? That's not how water works. Call me crazy. I'm not a scientist or anything. But okay. So this person is famous then.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Justin, who's the richest person in the world? And what does that mean? Are we talking like somebody with 1 million grandkids or somebody with a solid gold throne? Feel free to interpret rich however you like.
All right. So the richest person in the world is the head of a specific family.
Okay.
And this family all has a trade which they train in from like 2 years old.
So we're talking a merchant lord here.
100%.
Okay, cool beans.
And the finest craftsman of every field is from that family. And if not, that finest craftsman all of a sudden stops doing their craft for some reason.
So this is like a craft mafia.
Yes.
That's cool. Okay.
Thought you would go the other way. That they make him part of the family. So.
Yeah, right. Sign up or die, Jimbo. Yeah.
Okay, you're gonna marry in. Either you're gonna marry in, or like we gotta have a conversation.
Dane, if I got wounded and I didn't, for whatever reason, I needed to seek magical healing for that wound, can I do that? Where do I do that?
I would say some towns might have someone who either specializes in actual medicine or magic medicine, but it won't be every town or place.
I love how you say actual medicine. All the magic healers out there just went, okay.
Well, science medicine is magic if you don't understand it.
Yeah, right. I had a 2-hour argument the other day with a friend of mine back and forth about how Marvel doesn't always pull the whole, well, magic is science you don't yet get. And he went, yes, it does. I said, no, it doesn't. Have you met the Iron Fist? Like, they draw a very hard line between science. Doctor Strange is still a scientist, basically, because you can do anything he can do with enough effort and give a shit. But Iron Fist is just like
pure
the
mystical
mythic chosen one. Right, that's magic. Right, what Doctor Strange does is science that's really pretty. Like, oh man,
shortcut science.
Yeah, right. Like, are there, as a group, feel free to take this one individual if you want, are there cures for weird conditions like poison, disease, curse, lycanthropy, polymorph, death, shit like that?
Well, I mean, like I go with the idea of the hedge witch who basically maybe practices a little bit of light magic, but maybe depends more on the science magic of herbs and stuff like that that are in the world to cure these unusual ailments. None of them are 100%.
Okay. And this is this a thing they charge you for? A thing like you do service for?
She's not gonna. I would think most of these kind of living on the edge of society don't need a lot of coins, so they're looking for things that they need, either to make other product or so trade. Okay. Services. I need my field plowed.
Right. Okay, sounds good. Allison, if I was going to be a magic user, an arcane user, right, not a priest, and I wanted to get new spells, how do I do that? Do I go find them out in the wilderness? Do I join a guild? Do I just think really hard?
I would imagine that there's probably guilds/societies set up for this.
Okay.
Assuming that magic is kind of commonplace, or at least well known enough that people seek out to try and learn it.
Okay. Sounds good. And are they secretive? Are they fussy about who they let in? I mean, obviously every guild's a little different. But.
I think it depends on the guild. I think that there are probably some that are really secretive and have really high, powerful spells and only want certain people to have those. Versus guilds that are more about we just want everybody to learn. And I'm sure there's some that are probably not good aligned, where they're we just want power, so we're gonna do whatever it takes to get more power.
Okay, sounds good.
So you could learn a knot tying spell at the nice place that lets anybody in, because no one's worried about you knowing how to tie a knot magically.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
See, you say that, but there are some Isn't the Gordian knot like a mythic story about a knot?
Yeah.
Like I feel
it
like
can't be untied.
Yeah, right. I'm gonna cheat, and he just swings his sword through it and calls it a day.
Well, there's also probably very clearly like the equivalent of like in D&D terms, like a 9th level knot tying spell that does exist, where it's like
it's gotta be.
That's right? Magical. You cannot cut that. Like, it's stuck.
You can if you have a magic sword, though.
Well, you could use wizard lock on a knot.
Oh yeah. Justin, if I wanted an expert NPC, an alchemist, a sage, that sort of thing, where do I find them? Are they just kind of out in the wilderness somewhere? Is there a home for people like that?
Only retired ones.
Yeah, right.
I think they're more equivalent of like movie archaeologists.
Okay.
Where like they actually like to find one. Like, you might find one out in the field searching for this rare herb or something.
That's fun. Yeah,
but
so
like,
you're gonna have to, like, chase them down.
Yeah, so, like, they're the equivalent of, like, Indiana Jones.
Okay.
But they're, like, just sages and herbalists.
If I said I am only vaguely aware of Indiana Jones. I know who the character is because I have the internet, but I've never seen an Indiana Jones.
So the basic idea is he teaches at a university, but he also goes into ancient burial sites to get artifacts to return them to their rightful place, not where they were, but in museums.
See, and he really only works as a teacher so that they'll support his trips to go do the stuff he really wants to do.
Yeah.
That's funny. Because working as a teacher will provide you with income to do with what you want.
Well, no, they get grants, to do X.
Oh,
back in that days, like the Smithsonian or something would sponsor people to go into the wilderness.
Did they
to
not
look
do
for
that
things.
Anymore?
I don't know if they do not or now.
Probably
not
anymore, not to the scale they did before, but.
Oh yeah, like the scale they did in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Yeah, they.
Right.
In fact, I know a guy who worked at the Field Museum, and he said some of the tents were still in the building like 10 years ago that they used from the 70s.
Dane, what monster is currently terrorizing the countryside sufficiently that if I killed it, I would become famous for it?
One in particular, or like a group of them that appear all over?
Up to you.
Oh boy. There's probably some mutants that are more likely to attack people, either for they need more food or they just enjoy doing it. I would assume the ones that interact with people more for nefarious reasons are going to be the ones that people want to hunt.
Okay, sounds good. Let me bring up my notes here. Alan, if I wanted to hire mercenaries, like got everything from guys to carry my shit to swing a sword at something for me, how do I do that?
You'd put up on the bulletin board.
Okay.
Each town has a message board that you put stuff up.
Okay, sounds good. You bet.
I mean, reading and writing, is still a thing because you need to learn. Even those people learn out of books and stuff for surviving and things. So,
right.
Printing press may not be a thing, but rare finds and old books are like the high-end trade items.
Right. Here's a question: what is travel like for the average person? Do the average person travel only a couple miles from their home? Are ships a normal thing? I mean, how much water travel is there? Air travel?
If there was air travel, it would have to be some mutant beast and super rare, I would think.
Okay.
Unless, they find an old steampunk, like, flying ship or something.
Okay.
The average person is going to be traveling by foot. So you're talking, half a day's walk probably in any direction is the most they've ever gone.
Okay.
Beasts of burden are used for burden. They aren't used for travel unless it's set up like a Pony Express kind of thing where, the royalty or the government body tries to travel messages for their troops or something cross country.
Okay. And is this something that happens regularly?
No, I assume it would be set up for wars or, that kind of thing.
Okay, sounds good. Allison, are there any gladiator arenas I might join for like cash prizes and the screams of 1,000 fans?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. I think that anyone who is strong enough to like be able to fight other people and potentially win is viewed very highly in this society, especially because like they're the only people who are actually going from town to town and going places, and like, so I feel like, gladiator fights or like, something similar to that is very much a form of entertainment and can make you very famous.
Okay. And are these lethal? Is this the kind of excuse me, is this the kind of place people die?
I would say so, yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
So the capturing of beasts for gladiator combat is an actual thing then?
Yeah, is that something you can get paid to do?
I feel like depending on what races are in the society, I feel like mutants of varying levels, like there might be some that are more like people-like and some that are more like beast-like. Okay. And I would say that probably overall, like, because some mutants are probably like considered evil or do want to hurt people just for fun, that like capturing mutants and like trying to get mutants to fight each other or like having like gladiator style people fight mutants is a very big like thing.
Okay.
Well, I was
people who their whole career is like, I'm gonna go out into like non-civilized areas, capture a bunch of mutants, and bring them back and like make a bunch of money off of it
and get paid. You bet.
Yeah.
So we should probably mention that. And if we've established that the world is filled with mutants, and that previously we've established that there was some sort of cataclysm, not that it was necessarily Earth, and we've established that there was, that there's a mutation, which kind of frees you up to play whatever the hell you want from a race point of view. And if that feels weird, just pretend you're a mutant. There, problem solved. So if you want to play everything,
that's what Marvel's been doing for years.
Yeah, right. We want to do something weird. How do we do that? Radiation. No, we already did that. Okay, fine. X gene. And only recently they've been like, we got it. A catch-all meta-human. Done. Like play, do whatever. So if one of you wants to play, a walking, talking, like, goo ball, and one of you wants to play a sentient cat, and one of you wants to play a goblin, sure. Fine by me. Speaking of, Dane, what do you want to play? Do you have a thought yet?
I've had one so far.
Okay.
Thinking of someone who admired the mutants, but liked killing them to take their parts and create stitched zombies. That's where my mind's been.
Okay. What are you? Are you
towards zombies?
Well, I don't get it, but like I am anti-zombie in almost every case. I've played Dying Light more times than I can count because the mechanical gameplay is just that much fun. But zombies as a whole, pass. But I'm not you, right? So do what you want. So are you a human? I mean, tell me a little bit about your character.
My thought was he's a human, and his way of surviving in this world full of monsters was to create his own to help him out.
Fascinating. And
so you got a little entourage, that helps you out, carries things for you.
Maybe not at the start, but possibly in the future.
Okay. Do you do this with some sort of serum, some sort of like mystical Dr. Frankenstein lightning blast surgery?
Was mainly cutting them up, putting them together, and then animating them with some form of magic.
Okay, sounds good.
So like a Frankenstein stitched up.
Yeah,
yes.
Right. Do they look like, zombies? Is it obvious that they're not traditionally sentient?
I mean, they kind of look like mutants, but like there's clear parts where it looks like some It's parts from some mutants and other parts with stitches together.
Yeah, it's creepy. I love it. It's creepy as shit. Okay. Are you a generally wealthy person?
I'd say not super up there, but enough that he was able to get lessons in magic, and then also some anatomy skills.
Okay. Do you live in a city with a bunch of people, in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere? I mean, what is
middle of the woods, middle of nowhere?
Okay.
It's just not a middle of the city type of.
Yeah, you're not the kind of guy that walks down the street with his buddies and has nobody look at him funny. Yeah, like that sounds
Probably
good.
not.
Allison, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking that since mutants are like really distrusted or like even hunted and killed, my character, she is somehow part mutant. Like either she herself is a mutant or one of her parents was a mutant, and she is trying to hide that about herself. Like it's not visible, unless like I would say it's probably something she can hide under armor or like a part of her that just looks different.
So this is a physical trait, not something that like changes when you get upset or whatever.
Yeah, it could be that. I'm not 100% sure yet.
Okay,
There's something about her that is very specifically mutant, and she's trying to hide that because obviously mutants are like hunted. And her whole job is like, she's like a bounty hunter, mercenary, gladiator fighter. Like she does anything to make money.
Nice, you bet.
And
do you
that
have
entire
anybody?
time, she's trying to hide that essential part of herself. She doesn't want people knowing she's not human.
Sounds good. Alan, thoughts?
I'm thinking Thranx.
I don't know what that is.
It's Larry Niven's word for it. It's basically the tricrins from D&D. The giant ant people.
Yeah, the right. I always saw them more as mantises, but I know what you mean. Right. They're big bug people. Right.
So 4 arms, 2 legs, antennas, exoskeleton.
Yeah.
I think of him as like a fighter builder. He he can excrete a saliva that cements things together like an insect, does.
That's disgusting.
That's amazing.
I just
he likes, on his free time, he likes to build things. So,
yeah, right. I just had a flashback to Shadow Raiders. If you haven't seen that, you should. It's a CGI cartoon from the mid 2000s, so it's not aged graphically as well as one might hope, but the plot's really great. And one of the characters in it is a bug person who can breathe out this like permafrost stuff. Yeah. So on more than one occasion, she'll use that to essentially patch a hole in something. And it never melts ever. Unless a fire person, it's a whole world. Like these bugs are ice people, and there's fire people, and like swamp people, whatever. And if fire and ice touch each other, they wound each other, including their elements. So like fire burns hot enough to melt ice, and ice is cold enough to damage fire at the same time. So unless a fire person comes by and ruins that, it'll stay frozen forever. So you just kind of... And it's kind of creepy. At one point, she patches a fire person like that, and he's like, you know what? I'll just bleed. Get off me, right? Like that's creepy. Please don't breathe on me. So you're gonna play a fighter.
My question would be, is that like so? Ant people, are they a race in this world, or is that like a mutant thing?
Yeah, are you one in a million?
I'd like to think that there are like underground hives, just like regular ants, but they're more civilized cities. But they're made out of mud and adobe kind of thing.
Okay, so there's like a whole species like you running around.
It's like an underground Pueblo thing.
Nice,
good word.
Yeah, fancy. Pueblo is a great word. Justin, I feel like I already know, but what are you going to play?
All right, so I'm not going adolescent. I'm actually going tiger cub.
Okay.
I'm a tiger cub that was the pet of a god, and because of that, I have innate divine abilities.
Okay.
But the inspiration behind me is Clint Eastwood's A Man with No Name, because I've lived for so long and not aged. And now because my god has fallen, I'm like, well, I'm in this body and I'm actually starting to age, but I've seen a whole bunch of stuff. So like, I'm a grizzled wanderer.
Old soul, young body.
But you're so cute! So cute!
So like for my divine powers, like I'm thinking kind of like Nightwolf from Mortal Kombat.
Okay. The Native American with the green like axes and crap, right?
Yeah.
That's Nightwolf? Okay.
Yeah. So it's more connected to like the spirits of animals and things like that. So but yeah.
Okay. What does your day job look like? How do you like, survive?
I'm a mercenary.
Okay.
I wander, I find work, I find people.
I wander, I fight, I stab, Like, sounds good.
I don't stay anywhere too long because
like that,
I don't
like that
want
samurai
to.
with the kid he pushed around in the baby carriage.
Yeah.
Wolf and Cub.
Yeah. So, I think I have enough to get started. If you have any questions for each other or for me, that would be great.
Yeah, so we're making these characters. What kind of character sheet are we creating? Is there?
You don't need one.
System? Okay, so we don't need one.
Yeah.
You don't
So
need one. You're done.
Do we want to set what we're good at and what we're bad at?
Yes. So from the high trust angle works much better. So the whole idea is that if you wanted to play, or you play your character like they're like a real person, that's it. In world, if you wanted to become wealthy, you would look around the world and be like, okay, if I was what would I do to become wealthy? You could do the Bezos thing, right? However you want to do it. But that only works if you have a clear understanding of the world around you. This works in reality land because you've been on Earth since you've existed. Mm-hmm. But in a made-up world, you need a ground to put your feet on, right? So this is really important for that. Yeah, I would establish what you're good and what you're bad at. And I encourage you to have emotional, what I think the White Wolf system calls touchstones. Emotional weak spots. People you care about. It doesn't have to be people. Shadow Warriors is a great example. Prince Pyros, which is a cool name for a fire lord, has a bridge on his planet that he would die to save. It's just a bridge. That's it. But because he has deep emotional attachment to it because of his father, and he doesn't have his father anymore, so his emotional attachment to his father sort of got moved over to the bridge. So it doesn't have to be a bridge. We've all seen a TV show where like a zealot teenager was totally willing to die to save a tree, like shit like that. It definitely doesn't have to be a person.
I got mine figured out already.
Oh yeah?
So I got two. One, my collar.
Okay.
It stretches to fit. I've had it since I was young. It's my most prized possession.
If I could make a flea collar, so we have Sinestro collars for our cats. If I could make a Sinestro collar for our cats that never ran out of juice and stretched to fit, so I only had to put it on them the one time, I would pay a great deal of money to have that.
And the second one, I was wandering through this one town. Mm-hmm. It was a poor town.
Okay.
And this kid just started following me.
Oh boy.
The kid gives me pets. I get scritches. I protect the kid. That's my kid.
Okay. Is he still with you? Or
absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Fantastic.
He follows me wherever I go.
Fantastic.
There's times where he hasn't ate for like 4 days because I just wander off.
But he refuses to abandon you.
Nope. He refuses to abandon me. He's also given me a name. The name he gave me is Mittens. I don't understand it. It's not my actual name, but I let him call me it.
Do you wear mittens?
Never.
Or are your feet a different color than the rest of
Is
you?
it like you're orange, but you have white booties on?
No, he just called me Mittens.
Okay, yeah. My question is, how do we know each other then? Are we going to do that on session
I was
one?
going to get to that. Up to you.
Okay.
So I would encourage you to have, if touchstones is kind of vague for you, something you care about, something you'd like rush into a burning building to save, something you hate, something that you would deliberately not rush it. You might even giggle about it, right? Something you would not rush into a burning building to save. The kind of thing you might pour extra fuel on the fire, something you really hate, and something you're afraid of. So, I really don't like heights. I am willing to overcome them briefly. My nerve for heights does run out. No amount of bravado on my part will make me not afraid of heights.
So you mean that bridge where the glass at the bottom of the bridge is glass and you walk?
Are you kidding? When I was a kid, if we were in a mall and I'm on the second level, because you can see down there, right? I'd be against the interior wall, pressed as far away from that glass banister as I could possibly get. The idea of riding in a glass elevator, you piss right off. Like in no way. As an adult,
you'll walk the stairs, is it?
Yeah, right. Yeah. As an adult, I climb on my roof to get the snow off my roof. But I mean, I put it off. I don't want to do it. I do. My legs shake the whole time I'm up there. Right. I'm never going to get over it. I can get over it for brief periods of time, but I'm never not going to be afraid of heights. I don't think. Ugh.
As a kid, one of my our kid activities was basically jumping from the top of the barn into a pile of hay.
Yeah, no.
So like a 30-foot leap of faith.
So as a kid, I fell a lot, off of benches that, I can fall sitting down.
Oh.
Right. I don't, my balance is much better now than it was then, but it's still not good because it was abysmal then. So I've fallen way more than other people my age, and the ground and anytime I'm off the ground, that translates to a direct possibility to fall faster and from higher. Pass. I want both of my feet on the ground all the time.
If we're basically, Secret Pen there sort of is a mercenary, and our friend Justin there's a wanderer.
I'm also a mercenary.
Right.
I'm a wandering mercenary.
And I'm thinking that I'm out on a life scouting mission to find a new hive place. So if the hive has to split, we have a location for that found out. They send people out like that and for scavenging missions and stuff.
So your hive isn't isn't in direct threat right now. This is just contingency.
Because we plan and build, so we have to find that right place, with the right drainage and the right height, and that kind of right soil to work at. You can't just pick any old place.
You can't just pick. I mean, I get that.
And it's got to be far enough away and those kind of things.
Yeah. Okay, sure.
So it's a life mission to find the perfect building place.
This is something that could take as long as it takes.
Right.
Okay, sounds good. Dane, what do you think? Do you have any emotional touchstones? Something you're afraid of? Something you hate?
Before we actually jump, yes. I've figured out what my fear is.
Okay, sure.
Rodents.
Seriously? You're a cat who freaks out at mice?
I've never had to deal with them. I've always been at the side of a god.
They're fair. I always thought the Tarrasque was kind of a silly creature. Because think about it. It's this supposed to be incredibly large, kaiju, invincible creature. And I always took them to be, the book always presents them as more intelligent than I think they ought to be. They have the same intelligence score as a wolf. Now hold on. Wolves are subject to evolution. They have to. They have to adapt and train and deal with their environment. A Tarrasque does not. So I argued that a Tarrasque, from a scientific point of view, has absolutely zero intelligence because it's never needed any.
That makes perfect sense.
Adaptation at all on the table for the Tarrasque. The first time it dies, there's only one, right? So, in theory, there's only one. So it's what, a divine remnant? It's never had to deal. Which is how come I thought that right now, Gabo and the Secret Pen at the table I play with them have a terrace that can sum up as basically a boat.
Jim! He's also the house for our cult, don't
Oh, yes. They're currently working on getting back to him so they can continue to build their, like,
cult
structure, of clowns on the back of a terrace boat. It's a good time.
I dig it.
And they did, and when they originally done terrace, they weren't that hard to beat. All you needed is time stop.
Time stop, the ability to move faster than it and pelt it with rocks. I mean, eventually it would die.
But they weren't magic resistant.
Yeah, right.
So you just had any spell that didn't have a saving throw, it was affected by it.
Right, and then you could totally just hit it with, plain old ordinary rocks, I think.
Dig a dig hole and drop them into it.
Yeah, right, leave them. Yeah. So, Gabo, what do you think? Do you have... I almost forgot. There's something you love, something you hate, something you're afraid of. And maybe
I'm afraid of birds.
Okay. Of course you are. You're a bug.
Ooh,
and
yes.
A couple of things that
hate.
maybe make you angry. Like Columbus Day fires me right up. Right? Like, I will pick that fight for fun anytime.
All right. Love, he definitely has emotional attachment to all the amalgams he makes.
Really?
Yeah.
So these aren't just like servants.
Attachment.
Okay, cool.
Fear, very afraid of death.
Okay, that doesn't surprise me. Okay.
Hate. I'm still working on that one. What was the other one?
Maybe this one's kind of optional, but I think it makes for great. In my experience, it's such a great character moments. One or two things that really boil your blood. Things that will either kind of force you to get angry, or things that you kind of enjoy fighting about. Like I enjoy.
Definitely enjoys fighting mutants because he's always looking for new parts.
Okay.
Then hate. I'm still working on that one. I'll get back to you.
Sounds good. Secret Pen, what do you think?
So the big fear for my character, she is very afraid of being discovered as a mutant. That's her biggest fear in life. Every action she takes is to make sure that people do not know that she's a mutant.
Okay.
But because of that, she has a big soft spot for mutants. Because, she doesn't want to have the same discrimination that she's seen, I'm going to say probably her dad go through. That's where she gets her mutant stuff from, is her dad was like a full mutant.
Okay.
And he was killed for being a mutant. Like, he was captured, brought in to be like in like a gladiator fight and like be murdered essentially.
Okay, sounds good.
Is there a mutant underground railroad?
Oh, that's a great question. Is there like that, and is there like a safe, secret city where the mutants live without
sanctuary?
Like without fear of oppression or, Gobbo.
I feel like
march
there's
in there and
gotta
take them
be
apart.
at least one safe space. Like, there's gotta be at least a couple of cities that are just mutants because there's so much prejudice against them. So I would imagine that but they would have to be like hidden
cities.
Yeah,
like a city inside a crater that you have to get access through.
Like, they're in places where like there's only a couple of them, and it's really hard to find them because the information is not like spread out because they're so afraid of being like found and like murdered.
Okay.
So I like the underground railroad idea where they, save people and move them along.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some kind of like mutant resistance that like tries to recapture the mutants that are like, not evil, because I think there are some mutants, because there's always going to be in any race of anything, there's going to be people who are just straight up evil and are going to use their power to like hurt people.
Be an asshole,
But I think that like the majority of mutants, they're not like that, and they just want to live normal lives like anybody else. And so there's probably some sort of resistance to like recapture mutants that have been captured to like for the fighting thing, or or like they're trying to. I would imagine that there may even be some form of like mutants that have been like indentured servants or things like that. So like there's a lot of ability for like activism there.
Okay. Sounds good. Whoop, I went the wrong way. Don't mind me.
Gabo's got
Yeah. Dane, what's up?
I thought of the hate thing. He hates waste. He likes using every part of whatever mutant he kills if he can, as well as using every part of. He doesn't like waste.
So
or
don't
hates
eat
it, and people being wasteful. Also, for mutants, I thought there would also be like animal mutants, which aren't really like smart, who want to live normal lives. They're just kind of like rabid animals attacking people.
Okay, we're talking like a wolf with rabies, not a wolf that says, "Hello, how are you?" Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Like tentacles or shit that just wants to kill you.
Right, as some sort of odd, aggressive mutation. Tentacles, extra teeth, maybe a second head, shit like that.
So, I'm saying never eat your stew.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. Like I wouldn't.
He says he wants to use every part.
My hatred is my hatred is hoarding. I am against people just collecting everything for the sake of collecting it.
Okay. Your character and I would not get along.
You're a minimalist tiger. Huh? You got one possession, that's it. You know, two if you count the kid.
The Marie Kondo of tigers.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, I am working on it. I've downsized like my video games and my books. And then, like, pretty much everything in the house that's, like, you can pick up an individual item. And then it came time to do that to the computer. And I went... but digital stuff is easy to hoard.
Hey, isn't it? Look at that. I just found these I was cleaning up.
What is that?
Ultima...
No kidding.
Jeez.
So I was cleaning out my grandmother's house not that long ago. She died and we had to, clean it out. Sad. Anyway, their house is old. Like the basement is just blown out boulder. That's it. Like the basement and the foundation isn't poured. It's a rock that they built the house on top of, and they blew a hole in to make space for a basement. So like the shelving down there is just like big digs in the rock. It was really something. The staircase, if you want to call it that, really isn't. Like it.
They'd have been better off making a ramp, right?
Yeah, right. And that house is old. So, and everybody in the family lived in it at some point. So there's, like 300 years of human life in that house. And when we're in the attic, I found my dad's stuff from when he was like a little kid. And we found an original, barely used copy of Ultima 1, box art, everything. And I said, "Hey, Dad," I was there with him, it's his mother. And I was like, "Hey, do you want this?" And he went, "But no, I don't have that kind of time." I went, "Do you care if I sell it?" And he looked at me funny, and I went, "What? My computer doesn't take a big ass floppy, and you know it. Nobody's does." Like, unless somebody went out of their way to be able to do that. And he went, "Ultima's a great game." I said, "I know. I emulate it all the time." But yeah, like that. A floppy drive. It's not even. How big are the old ones? They're not 3.5.
Oh, they're massive.
Quarter, I think they were.
Yeah. They're. Nobody has that, and I sold that for like a couple $100.
I have a magnetic disc from the stack drives.
That's cool. I almost didn't sell it. Like I was like, this is easy money, but it's also like an origin point of gaming history, right? That box is way too big, and I didn't have a place to put it, or I totally would. I used to keep a bunch of the old cameras that we found.
I used to hang it up in my game show, and when the under 20s come in, I go, "You know what that is?" That's less than 1K of storage.
Yeah, right. So I used to do the big brother, big sister thing. And one day I'm walking home with my little, right? What a weird thing to call it. Elijah's a great guy. He's a grown up now. But I'm just about to buy a house. I'm so proud of him. Anyway, at the time he's like 13, and I'm walking him home from school. And the bank we walk by is having a get rid of all your tech, like your old technology day. You don't pay it. You don't pay us. You just bring in the old computers or whatever, cell phones and shit, and we'll take them away. No harm, no foul. And they have a big Apple II in there on a table. They haven't tested it yet. They're going to. And I ran ahead of Elijah and I said, "Hey," to the guy, I said, "Hey, does this work?" He went, "I don't know yet. I haven't tested it." I said, "Humor me. There's a 13-year-old boy coming up the path, big brother, big sister. Can I get him to use it for a second?" And he went, This ought to be good. Yeah, sure. An Apple II, if you haven't used it, has a power switch on both ends. You have to flip 2 buttons in order to turn it on. And it's humongous. and he thought that was the coolest thing in the world. You should have seen it. His eyes got this big when he saw how big it was and that it needed 2 power switches. In his mind, that meant that the voltage in it was extreme, and this was like a supercomputer.
And the screen was this big, right?
Yeah, right, yeah. And we turn it on, and he goes, now what? I said, now you, like, do basic math or run a game or something. And he went, because they had a bunch of floppies to put in it, in a little plastic, like, one of the recipe card book type thing. And we put in a game where we got it to run, and he's like, I don't get it. These graphics are terrible. I went, man, you're lucky there are graphics in it at all.
Yeah, like, they didn't invent graphics until a specific point.
Right. Dude, your cell phone is thousands of % more impressive than this machine. And he went, that doesn't make sense. This computer is enormous. I went, yeah, well.
That's what it was.
I'm just getting my wife to clear up, and we're just now getting rid of her Apple II.
Nice. Like, we've come a really long way. I'm just saying, if you think the PS5, because at the time it wasn't out yet, like, if you think the PS5 isn't coming out fast enough, take a breath, right? Technology has come a really long way in a really short, by comparison in other fields, window of time. Like, and I'm really hoping that it had an impact on him, and he didn't just think I was making fun of him. Because that was the idea. Elijah's a really great kid, but he is, at the time, was very, very unaware of the world before he was in it, which isn't necessarily a skill you should carry into adulthood, so I was kind of hoping I could shave some of that off. Anyway, so it sounds like we have characters, some character depth. Do you know each other already? Do you want to role play out meeting each other?
I'm gonna say that I'm aware of Secret Pen. Because we're both mercenaries.
I think that would make sense, because I feel like most mercenaries would have at least heard of each other.
And it's not even that we would have heard of each other. I'm also a talking tiger cub.
Right.
Kind of hard to miss. Right. Secret Pen, I know that you're a mutant, but what do you look like? Are you big and imposing? Are you scrawny? Do you look like a human?
So,
do you look like a goblin?
I guess it depends. What kind of races do we have in this world? If there are orcs,
that's for us to determine.
An orc.
Right, that's totally your choice.
All right. Well, if orcs do exist as a race, she's probably an orc.
Okay, we're talking like Final Fantasy, Lord of the Rings, full orc. So like black skin to dark green skin, like 5 feet high.
Think more of like Warcraft.
Okay.
Like green skin, blue skin. You get like different hues like that.
Right. Big as a human.
Big, bulky. Like she is huge. Like that's obviously how she makes her living.
Okay. How rare are orcs? Do they have a society? Are they common? Are they looked at funny? Because they're it's a world filled with mutants.
I would say they're common. Like they're not. There's not really prejudice against them for being orcs. I think the prejudice really is for more like mutants. So like, she doesn't care that people know she's an orc. She cares if people find out if she's a mutant or not.
So in big towns, are there like orc sections of town where orcs are expected to stay, or are they integrated in the whole society?
I think integrated based off of what was said.
Yeah, I think that at least from like the vibe that we've kind of set up, I think whatever races exist in this world, they're pretty well integrated. Like, that people don't really care what your race is. They care, are you a mutant? Are you not a mutant? Like, are you good at what you do? Are you not good at what you do? Like. If
you're good at what you do, we're probably fine.
Yeah. I also did come up with her hate.
Okay.
So we talked about the most like famous fighter in this world.
Okay.
She hates him.
Yes.
Because the reason he got famous is because he's a huge mutant killer. Like if someone wants a mutant dead, he's the one to do it. Like that's what he's known for. Like he's super strong.
He does it free of charge almost.
Right, like for him, like mutant killing is the best sport ever. Like he loves it. He thinks it's awesome. He does not care if they're sentient or not. He does not care if they're a beast or a person. Like he's like, you're a mutant, I'm gonna freaking kill you. And most people are like, yeah, that's great, we love this guy. And so she's actually met him and worked with him before. I would probably think that this guy either like has a crush on her, or like he likes things, he like wants her because she doesn't want him, you know, like that annoying kind of like Chad type of guy.
Yes.
And he doesn't know she's a mutant, obviously. This is a very well kept secret of hers. So she hates him. She's kind of terrified of him because like he's obviously like you know, whenever they do meet up, he's like, hey, like let's get to know each other more. And she's like, no.
Like, get away from me. Right.
Right. But she's also like one of his rivals too, like because they both are in the same field of work, and I would imagine, you know, like
and
the
he
Tiger
sees
Cub
you
also would be considered a rival as well.
He sees you as up and coming, and he knows he's
Right.
going to reach a peak before you get there, and he's
Right.
going to be coming down to meet you, kind of thing.
Nobody
Like
wants that.
I wouldn't even put it past him if at some point he's like taken out fighters that are getting up there in rank because he's like, I don't want people to meet my level, you know?
Right. I don't want anybody coming for me. Right.
I don't see him as necessarily a good guy. I don't know if he's an evil guy, but he's, you know, I wouldn't see him as a good guy.
Well, I mean, I guess where do you draw the line between self-interest and evil?
If it's good for me,
I think he's very self-interested with probably a little bit of a cruel streak, you know?
Okay. Like,
And I'm thinking the Thranks, they're very uncommon in society because they don't really understand human society, because the Thranks work together for the community.
right.
The community is first. And they don't understand humans not working together. It's just a little confusing to them.
This
They're
sounds
almost
like
their own separate society that still exists in this world.
Yeah.
right. So Dane, what's the weather like on the regular? Is it, at least where you are, maybe not the whole world, but where your character is it sunny all the time? Is it windy all the time? Does it rain?
Definitely
frogs,
cloudy
and
all the time.
Okay. Is the weather the kind of weather that like a Earthling would recognize? Fog, rain, stuff like that?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, sounds good. What do you eat? I realize that you're a human, but I mean, what is the average? Do humans? What's the regular human diet look like? At least where your character comes
not
from.
much meat, more plants.
Okay.
Because animals take a lot to. There's a lot of resources involved with eating animals, so
Agreed.
probably not as much as those. Like more for higher end.
Okay. So meat's a thing, but only for the wealthy?
Hard to come by.
Okay, sounds good. I think we're closing in on the end here, unless... Oh, we haven't factored in Alan's character yet. Do you know them? Do you know any of them?
I can't see any reason why I would know any of them directly.
Okay. Sounds good.
Like I said, I'm a fighter, but I'm a builder. So when I go into towns, on my scouting stuff, because I wander, I do a little odd jobs, because of my abilities and stuff, repairing and helping lift things and construction and stuff. But and then I'm there 2-3 days and then I move on.
Okay.
A week.
So you're a very mobile creature.
Yeah, 7 days in any big town before you move on to a new location, do some more scouting kind of thing.
Okay, sounds good.
So I think he should be real regimented like that. 7 days, time to move on.
Okay. And if you were to find this perfect place, it sounds like you would have no idea how far away. Like, I mean, you don't already know where it is.
No, I have no idea where it is. It's I mean, there are a lot of us ant people, but not a lot of them go out.
Right.
And they, so we scatter about.
If you find this place and it's far away from the hive, how do you just like walk back and tell them? Do you have some
just walk
like,
back
alarm?
and tell them.
Okay.
Mark it out, where it's at, and put a, kind of a. I would build like a little outpost or building or something to mark the territory as where I want to be and then move on.
Okay, sounds good. Does anybody have any questions for me or each other?
Yeah, I wanted to ask Justin, so have our characters ever met and or worked on a job together?
Worked on a job together? No.
Okay.
Met? Yes. Only because I was offered to work on the same job, and instead of being a team player, I was... Why would I do that? I must wander from here. I do not like this place.
The team player is the other end of inherent decision. I see. Like very Wolverine, you bet. What a great example of a solo character done from a narrative team. Like, because playing the Lone Ranger always sounds fun, but it's a team experience. Wolverine is really great for that, because he has this weird connection to Cyclops that you can't seem to disconnect from. I really appreciate that he and Jean and Scott are finally in a three-way relationship. Duh.
Are they?
Yeah. It seemed kind of like a no-brainer to me.
I haven't read comics in like 2 years now.
Yeah, so Scott and Wolverine and Jean are just in a big poly lump now. And
Good for them.
Yeah, and I was like, that makes total sense. All that aggression, you can just stop now and all like be friends and crap.
All that angst about it. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And I mean, that didn't strike me as odd, because when I was a kid, Cyclops was always like, he's upset because Wolverine and Jean are talking, right? And somebody else would be like, well, do you really think Wolverine is a threat? And he goes, which is totally the wrong question to ask. I think the question is, what do you give a shit? Jean's an adult, right? And totally gets to make her own decisions.
Wolverine is obviously a threat. He's
Right. When Cyclops goes, well, yeah, you seen him? He's kind of rugged. Like, no dude who's not infatuated with the other dude says things like that, right? Like, it never struck me as, it didn't strike me as odd in the slightest when they were just a relationship. Like, no kidding. Like, Wolverine's just, a walking hornball. That doesn't surprise me in the slightest.
So, which Wolverine is it now? Is it that they bring him back, or is it the Otherworld one?
So, they covered it, but I forgot.
Okay.
It is 616 Wolverine. Old Man Logan is here too. Yeah, modern comics are getting weird. Like, everybody's mythic now. Like, the Hulk is... That lab accident didn't cause that. It looks like it did, but it didn't. Barry Allen, also not a lab accident. Divine intervention, actually. Everybody's getting all mystical. And I'm like, because when I was a kid, everything was radiation, and today everything's magic. And Marvel can't quite make up their mind.
I feel like as we move forward in like today's world, Marvel was like, nope, we need to go full fantasy, because anything else, some people are going to be like, I don't want to read that.
Yeah, right. And it's weird. On the one hand, Marvel is doubling down on the Spider-Man and Moon Knight and Iron Man. Those are all just, even Thor, are just people with supernatural abilities and problems. Like, everything's turned all the way up. But they're just people. They cry and complain and feel upset and like they can't do it, right? They feel like people. On the other end, DC is treating all of their heroes very much like gods. Recently, Jon Stewart, who is Amber's favorite Green Lantern, I'm a Hal Jordan guy all the way, but Amber's a big Jon Stewart fan. Jon Stewart was called in by the Guardians. He went to see them, and they said, hey, so we thought you ought to know that you are 1/4 of the primordial Green Lanterns. You are where heroism comes from. And he went, hey, thanks. And they went, no, that's not what we meant. We meant that in a very literal sense. He went, what? They go, don't you think it's kind of odd that usually a Green Lantern gets dispatched to a whole universe at a time? And, well, a whole quadrant at a time? And 4 of you are dedicated just to planet Earth? Doesn't that strike you as odd? And he went, no, Earth is a dangerous place. Like, not particularly, no. All kinds of bad shit happens on Earth. And apparently Jon Stewart, Kyle Rayner, Hal Jordan, and Guy Gardner combined are the prime Green Lanterns. If they die for real, all the Green Lanterns in other realities also die. They're the font of where bravery comes from in the multiverse. And all of the Justice League is like that. Jeez. They all have something that spills out of them that causes all the other ones to exist. And He goes, wow, how long has that been true? And they go, like, the whole time. And he went, why didn't you tell me before that?
Talk about planning yourself into a box.
Right, and they're like, because you don't need to know. You didn't need to know. And he goes,
you tell him now.
Well, you've told me now, so what changed? And they went, now you need to know. And he went, okay, great, for what? And they go, oh, we can't tell you that. I'm like, I'm sorry, what?
I would be smacking somebody if that was me.
Yeah. Well, hold on. Now I need to know. Right, but you don't need to know why. No, I feel like I do.
Answers in this box, but don't open it.
Right. I feel like I very much need to know. Also, John was like, I mean, he's Jon Stewart. He's been through shit I can't even imagine how I would emotionally deal with. And they just put this... I can't even imagine what that feels like for a responsibility. And they just hand it to him and just tell him, like, it's no big thing. Oh, yeah, it's true of all your friends, too. Superman is the prime Superman from which courage spews forth into the multiverse. He should probably not die. Wonder Woman is where I think inner fire comes from. Like, every character in the Justice League.
What is Batman?
Determination.
Oh, determination.
Like,
I was going to say paranoia.
Also that, probably. The man has iron, like, indomitable will. He's DC's version of Dr. Doom. He just doesn't come off that way most of the time. My favorite moment with him has got to be in the Justice League movie where they, like, get captured by evil Justice League. Where the Flash died, right? And they become, like, totalitarian dictators. No one's ever going to get hurt again at the cost of their own free will, right? So the whole planet has a curfew. like it's ugly. And they capture the new our Justice League, and they put everybody in a box, in a containment cell. And Flash, except for the Flash, they have a containment cell for him, but they're not really sure how to handle it. And Flash is contained, and he goes, "Hey, Batman, get us out of this. When are you getting us out of this?"
Oh, hold on, we just got a whoa spoilers in the chat.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, forgot I said anything. Yeah. There's a great cartoon movie with, I think they call them the Justice Lords. You should watch that. It's great. Sorry, I forgot we were live. Yeah.
No worries. I mentioned it as soon as it popped up.
There are very few DC animated movies that I would recommend from the period of time in which that one came out. But I would recommend that one. That one was pretty great. Also, Batman Beyond Return of the Joker is brilliant.
I don't know if that's a movie or just episodes from Justice League Unlimited.
It might be that. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I remember that plot line from that show.
Justice League Unlimited is a great show. But, like, if you haven't seen it, you
phenomenal,
should watch that.
Yeah.
Hard recommend.
I am very curious as to how Gobbo's character is coming into this situation then.
Yes.
If you're more of a hermit in just building your own thing.
My thought was I'd come into town at some point, and then some event would happen where we all come together.
Some event?
Yeah. I definitely foresee some kind of tension between my character and Gabbo's character.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Any particular reason?
They're not going to get along.
Or maybe somebody hires the mercenaries to go out to Gabbo's place because they pissed somebody off.
Because he's a big old creep?
Yeah, because he's a big old creepy type.
Because he's building zombies in his backyard.
Yeah, and only evil people build zombies to make invasions, you know.
No, that's not fair. Sometimes you're elderly and what you have left is your brain.
You know what?
And you need backup.
Some people just have different ways of making friends.
That's right. That's
exactly.
Right. If you can't make friends the traditional social fashion, that does not mean
make them.
Right, you shouldn't have to go without friends. That's right. Friends are cool. So, I think we're all set unless you have more you want to cover. Do you feel like you have a picture of the world in your heads now? If you don't, you should fix that.
I do.
Yeah, I think I do.
Mm-hmm. The only thing that I think we might want to cover, and this is just simply for the chat because we do have a couple people in there, is the basis of the system we're going to be using. Just one more time, so there's questions of levels and things like that.
I'm not sure you have them. Instead, you have, you get better because you have better stuff.
100%.
You refine the skills you have, but I'm not sure that you have.
Almost like index card thing.
Yeah, I'm not really sure you have mechanical depth to growth, though. You just grow because you feel more impressive.
So it's like tier-based development.
Yeah. It's definitely a weird thing to shift from lots of mechanics and math to just being more of an actor and less of a character. Speaking of, Dane, a lot of the time when we play and it comes time to be like, socially convincing or whatever. When one might make a charisma roll. You often aim to do that instead of role playing, and I'm not giving you any crap for that at all. I'm just saying that would be more difficult to do here. So if you would like some mechanical support for that, I understand, and I'll make sure to put some in. Feel free to, tell me, and I'll adjust.
Right.
And also, I'm old. If I say something that's is not currently politically correct enough, please correct me. Sometimes it's just because of the where I grew up, how I grew up.
I will send angry imps to your house.
Angry imps to my house. I have no intention to obviously offend anyone directly. So but
full disclaimer, Alan's like one of the coolest people I know. I am fairly confident that if Alan says something uncool, he didn't mean it. He might not have even noticed.
Yeah, I won't have noticed. But
not a problem.
Also, I have a tendency to I try not to overshadow a group because I end up being leader type, and I don't necessarily need to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, I have a fellow player who tried that recently. It did not work. He drove him so crazy, and there's nothing I could do. I can't make the other players make a decision,
Yeah.
And I tried, I sure did. But he eventually he was like, "Look, Jay, I can't babysit. I don't want to do that." And he just, I feel bad. He's a great player too. And he was like, "I can't. Nope, I'm not."
There just was no forward motion, and they seemed to be
He tried just not talking during decision periods, and then they would just stare at him. They would also stop talking and then just stare at him until he just couldn't take it anymore.
I can see it.
Super awkward. And I feel really weird because I'm sitting here twiddling my thumbs going, I can only say, "Hey, what do you think?" so many times and have them ignore me so many times before I feel like I'm just being an asshole.
Well, I have determined the name for my character and also the child that follows him.
Boy, awesome.
I am Taika, and this is Duke. He gives me scritches.
The mightiest. I love how you're like a demigod and you love the scratches.
Yeah.
That's great.
Especially tummy scratches, I bet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right?
Behind the ears, tummy.
Underestimate the value of a good tummy scratch.
Yeah.
That's right. We have a new kitten who genuinely loves a belly rub, and I've never seen that before in a cat.
Oh, I have one. As long as you scratch him up here, is fine. You get down much lower than this, he's like all over you.
Yeah, Louise, if you get we're talking bottom of chest, beginning of stomach, any lower than that, even middle of stomach, you're getting the slap, right?
Yeah.
But higher than that, you're fine.
I have also come up with a name for my character.
Oh, good.
Her name is Karina.
Nice. Very cool.
Karina.
So,
my name is Click, because you can't pronounce it correctly.
That's good. So if you have lots of players do this thing where they have secrets that they want me to know about, but they don't necessarily want each other to know about. So feel free to DM me privately if that's something you want to do.
Yeah, I'm going to write a little thing up of kind of race background and society thing for you, so you get an idea where I'm coming from.
I need to remember that we're live because I can't say things that might spoil things for anyway. We just finished Squid Game. That was great.
Yeah.
Dark is crap. I am incredibly disappointed that is the #1 show in 90 countries right now.
Which one?
90. Squid Game.
You're disappointed?
I'm disappointed. Have you seen the show? It's
not yet.
All
but
I
I've heard
know
things.
is that it is a very harsh criticism of capitalism, and
it is a right. So I have a hard.
I can imagine why it's so popular.
I'll let you know if you hit a point where there's any problems of spoiling or anything. I'll let you know because I see the chat.
Okay. On the one hand, Squid Game was an incredible from a narration point of view. I could not peel my eyes off the screen. A lot of the time, I choose not to play with my phone when I'm watching TV. Squid Game demanded it of me, like Andy Tartakovsky's work, like Primal and Samurai Jack. It's a show that just demands that you watch it. And I thought that was really great. From a structural point of view, I'm incredibly impressed. Anyone watching that show for enjoyment, not curiosity, should probably consider how come that is.
Well, apparently Jeff Bezos tweeted about how he can't wait to watch the show and how he thinks Netflix done a great job with it, and the whole internet was like, the show is about how people don't like you.
Yeah, right. It is an incredibly depressing show. Like, there's a bad person at the end, right? And there's no greater reason. They did what they did for exactly the reason you think they did about that time. When that moment comes up and you're like, is there going to be some secret reveal? Not really. It's the dark, ugly thing it appears to be.
Okay.
Which is incredibly brutal and honest. And on one hand, I appreciate that. And on the other hand, I was really pulling for some other, like, because I'm okay with rationalizing away the bad guy's logic if he has one, right? Like, from a show point of view, I can be like, okay, you're still the bad guy, but I can see how you got there. Because I have a fistful of mental divergences that make it easy for me to rationalize terrible things, just not agree with them.
I see.
And Squid Game is not one of those. Absolutely not. It's the big, ugly bruise that it appears to be. Which on one hand, on TV is incredibly refreshing and wonderful, but there's no, like, moral lesson or whatever. There's no attempt to make you empathize with the bad guy.
I like that fact.
Maybe Jeff Bezos will watch it and finally realize that he's the villain.
Yeah,
on that note...
Probably not. On the other hand, my soul's darker now for having watched it.
On that note,
that dark.
I think this is a good time for us to do a final review of our characters, then say goodbye until next week, where we jump into the action.
But that means I won't get to see Allison and Dane for like a whole nother until Tuesday.
Oh, you guys can keep talking after this if you want.
Oh, fine. Be that way.
Yeah, it's just the stream will go off after that, so you can fully explain your opinions without worrying about being on stream.
I can't do that. Besides, they haven't watched it yet.
It's true. But no, let's do a quick review of characters, and then...
Before we do that, do we have a team idea for where you want to start, what the first bit looks like?
I think probably a bigger city would make more sense. Maybe the city that Gabo's character lives on the edge of.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And then, Click could, be traveling to the city for his, 7-day stay,
Okay.
Yeah, I just arrived or something on that.
Gabo, how far out of town do you live? Are we talking they can see your house from the road? Are we talking half-hour walk through the woods?
About a half hour, not so far that it would be completely out of the way to get to him, but far enough that you'd have to really look for him.
So a half an hour walk after you reach the woods. So half an hour into the dense woods.
Yeah.
Are you paranoid? Would you know if people were coming? You got stuff set up?
I would say he's pretty paranoid due to low social interaction with people.
Sorry, my mother left, so my cat started to shriek bloody murder. So my mother moved in with us not that long ago, and Ebony immediately decided that she no longer loved me and loves my mother instead. I'll get over it.
I think I might be the social face of the group.
You're a talking kitten, of course you are.
It's true.
No,
you use the cat adorable eye thing?
Yeah, right. Do the Puss in Boots get the hat? Hold it. All right.
Hell yeah. I'm down for it.
Sounds good. So I think we're all set, unless anybody else has another question for me or each other.
I'm going to do a little, like I said, a little social, how I, this society how I look at it to you, so you got an idea.
Sounds good.
Yeah, no, I'll come with my backstory stuff as well. Anything that's important, it'll just be notes, really. I don't need specific details, but yeah.
Sounds good. Should you end up with a specific thing you want to, Alan's character has this, long-term goal to find the perfect place to live, if you have something like that, tell me, and I'll make sure it ends up something you can pursue. Speaking of, Gabo, how much these friends you make, do you have goals there? Is there a goal to make a larger one? Are we trying to perfect the process? Or is this just so you're not alone?
I'll have to think on that. Right now, in my head, it's a combination of not wanting to be alone and making the perfect one.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what would the perfect one look like? Do they not look undead? Are they like
That's a great question that I don't have an answer to yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
One of the things I was wondering is now starting out is you're making them, but they aren't lasting a long time, and part of your perfection. Part of your perfection is to make them last longer and longer.
That's good. I'll consider that.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. So they maybe they break down over time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, gross.
Not perfect magic yet. Okay.
Now I'm
Right.
picturing.
You're starting your craft. I mean, that's kind of a limitation you could look at.
Yeah.
As an idea.
Now I'm picturing like a melting zombie, and that's disgusting.
I'm getting like the vibe I'm getting is this is the origin of the island of Dr. Moreau.
Yeah, right.
I was thinking more like zombie leprosy, where like parts start to fall off.
Oh yes.
Yes, to pick them all up for later.
Secret Pen, what was that?
So my question then would be, is making zombies, because obviously it takes magic to do this, is this considered a dark magic in this world, or is this something that like everybody can do and it isn't looked down upon?
Yeah, right. Do you catch shade for that?
I mean, he's in the woods for a reason, if I had to guess.
Okay, sure.
Shade be getting thrown.
Is this like...
This is like a type of magic that people are like, ooh, you shouldn't do that.
Right. Is it magic like...
Because no one wants to see their dead grandmother get up later.
Yeah, right. Are you a fugitive? Like, is this illegal or just socially unacceptable?
It's just socially unacceptable because there's enough monsters. Why are you making more?
I see. But not the kind of thing you'll get arrested for. Oh, there's a great question. What does the criminal system look like in this world? Are there prisons?
Probably like local prisons for each city.
I want to say
I
no.
feel like every city would do it differently. I think that's probably why there's so many mercenaries.
Okay.
Would be that
Probably
it's generally like if someone has a problem with someone, they're gonna hire a mercenary and be like, go take care of this person for me.
Okay. That sounds good.
Because the city's not going to want to support. The problem is if you jail people, you're supporting them.
Right, you have to pay for that. Right.
So they either have to produce something to balance out their support, or why keep them around?
Yeah, in human development, the concept of the jail is surprisingly new for lots of people.
I would imagine that in a lot of like bigger cities that do have like the fighting rings, they would probably just take people and like be like, okay, you're gonna have to fight in this now, you know?
And if you live 3 matches, you get to go free like that, or you just fight until you die?
I think it's just fight till you die.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's prorated. If you did pickpocketing, you got to survive 3. You killed somebody, it's 10.
Okay. Like you get a different amount of ass whipping possibilities depending on the thing you've done wrong. I see.
Yeah, it's like if it's a traffic ticket, you only have to survive 1.
Okay.
I'm down.
A friend of mine has a table like that. Lots of different legal structures for different towns, and one of them, even all crime, even the tiniest infraction, punishable by death. I think people there are paranoid as hell.
I think there should be one where like it's literally they just have a real big hole that was naturally there,
and they just throw you in.
Commit a crime down the hole.
Nice. Yeah. I bet people walk around like it's like the earth is made out of glass. Like that. That'll really. Oh man.
It's kind of like where they ship people to the island and leave them.
Yeah.
Now hold on. Australia is much bigger than that now.
Yeah. All right, I think I'm going to get going. It looks like we're kind of at an end here.
Yeah, anyway. I think we're done.
Yep.
So
thank you, everybody. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh yeah, you bet.
Absolutely.
I'll see everybody in a week. Allison and Dane, we're not playing this weekend, right? No, we did Friday.
Did we play last Friday?
I was kind of hoping you knew. Let me pull out my schedule and make sure.
All right. While you're looking at your schedule, I would like to thank everybody for stopping by.
Yeah.
Looking forward to
next
week
on the 12th. I'll see everybody on the 12th, which is this coming Tuesday.
Yeah.
And yeah, we played last week, so I'll see the two of you again on the 15th.
So I forgot that. Is this going to be every week then?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we should. I think so, but we should confirm that.
So
every week, 11 to what?
Yeah. So ideally, it'll be every week.
Okay.
Traditionally, the slot open is 4 hours. If it ends up being a little shorter because of plot or a little bit longer, that's fine.
Okay.
If there's a time where you have to leave early or if you have to miss, just make sure you let people know in advance. And
yeah, bet.
Okay.
And we go from there.
On the Discord site or
yep. On the Discord. On the Discord.
Gabo, you're the one with the work that bumps up right against this. When is a good end time for you?
I need to be gone out the door by 2 p.m. Central.
Okay.
So I think
what time is it where you are
yourself.
now? Yeah, I think so.
It's a quarter to
11:48 here.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah. Let's see here. So
okay, so that puts us at that puts us right at 4 hours. That so you just so that would just be leaving slightly early, which is not a problem.
Yeah, if we shave that down to like if I start narratively wrapping it up a few minutes before that,
hell yeah,
that would give you that sounds good.
Yeah.
So I will see everybody in a week. This was fun.
All right.
By all means, pester me and each other in the Discord chat if you have more questions, because the whole much less mechanics thing works a lot better if you have a concrete understanding of your characters and the world that they're in. Mostly how you would go about achieving things. If I was going to rob a bank, well, I kind of need to know whether or not there are banks, and then what security measures they have. Anyway, you know what I mean.
Absolutely. But yeah. Thank you, everybody, for coming. This is a new DM coming in where I have been the primary DM on the channel. We have another project coming up that I don't have a date on yet, where there will be rotating DMs, so we have a whole bunch of things going on. Anybody stopped in, thank you for coming. Hopefully you subscribe, follow. Can't subscribe yet, unfortunately. Tell your friends. Not? We're not an affiliate. We're pushing.
Well, do it anyway.
I know.
have no idea how Twitch works.
I know. No, tell your friends, tell your parents, tell your grandparents, tell the guy down the street they don't talk to. Everyone have a good day.